joining us today for the Shepherd Staff 2018 webinar covering the year-end procedure for contributions and attendance inside of Shepherd Staff. My name is James Bowman, and I am a software support technician here at Concordia Technology Solutions Software Support. My number and email address can be found on the screen. In case you have any questions or comments, go ahead and reach out to us or reach out to me via those methods there. And I should note that I'll get back to you sometime after this recording, as all phones and microphones, and of course email, has been muted or put away for the course of this session today. And answering any support questions that you might have is my manager, Mr. Rod Kyles, and he's a veteran of the department for over 18 years. So if you have a question, there's a very good chance that he'll either answer it for you or we'll be able to find the answer very quickly for you there. And as you can see, his email and phone number are also listed on the screen in case you need those today. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our overview. The class agenda today, we'll go ahead and have this overview, and then we'll have the discussion proper over contributions and attendance in Shepherd Staff. And then we'll go ahead and review what we discussed, and we'll have a short quiz section. I believe it's only 4 questions today. And then we'll have Q&A if applicable at the end. So, all right, let's go ahead and begin here. Perfect. Okay, sorry, just checking one thing off screen there. Apologize for that. We'll start with the year-end overview, and this will apply to every module inside of Shepherd Staff that you would run this with. So it applies to contributions and attendance for sure, but everything is covered under that year-end overview. And then after that, we'll go ahead and rebuild and optimize the database, and we'll discuss how you do that, when you should do that, how often, all that good stuff there. Then after that, we'll go ahead and make a backup of our database. And this is a very important step to follow. It's not terribly difficult, but again, if anything goes wrong, you want to have that step done. So it is very important. And then we'll go ahead and delve into the contributions module, and we'll talk about pledges, renumbering, the various reports you'd want to run, and then any utilities you'd want to run after you've made a backup in that module. And then, oh, there they are. We've got the batches, the pledges, the envelopes, the reports, and then the cleanup utility optional at the end there after you've made a backup. So a backup should be made between reports and cleanup utility right in there. All right, so then we'll jump into the attendance module, and we'll discuss batches in there that need to be posted before you go ahead and proceed with any of your reports, which is the second thing we'll talk about. Then after reports, we'll discuss the optional cleanup utility that is also found, it's a similar utility which is found in the attendance module as well. And then we'll jump into our review of what we discussed today, that quiz I promised you, and then the QA session should that be necessary. All right, let's go ahead and get started today. And I'll go ahead and turn off that camera. Perfect. And then we'll jump into Shepherd Staff here, and we'll go ahead and discuss the overview for the year end. And things that apply to all the modules inside of Shepherd Staff are the fact that all the year end utilities have been removed from contribution, attendance, membership, and scheduler. So only finance has a formal year-end utility that changes over the fiscal year. The other modules have best year-end practices, and then a cleanup utility which can be run. We'll discuss that more as there is some nuance involved in there, but the cleanup utility is the closest thing these modules have to the finance module. And then all the reports have dates inside. I believe that's true across every module. There might be one odd one that I'm forgetting about there. And then cleanup utilities are used to purge data out of your database, and that's why we say they're optional and nuanced, because they really depend on what your church needs done. They're not something we even really recommend doing, but on a case-by-case basis, you definitely can do them there. So that's why we'll discuss those. And then only run the year-end utilities and processes in modules that you use. So if you don't use finance and you still have it, then just go ahead and ignore that module. Don't even bother running the year-end utility there. And the same is true for membership, attendance, contributions, and scheduler. Say you only use Shepherd Staff for membership, contributions, and finance, then don't do anything in attendance and scheduler in that regard. Make sure to back up as often as you want to, at least before the cleanup utility, or if you're not doing the cleanup utility, after you've done all of your batches and pledges and renumbering and reporting, then it'll be the last thing you do will be make a backup. And that's just in case anything goes wrong. That backup will allow us to unwind what we did and easily fix it there. All right. So after that, then we'll do a database rebuild, and I'll show you that really quickly here. The database rebuild should be run on the server, and what that means is that whichever computer actually houses the database on its hard drive should be the one that you go ahead and access directly, and then run this run the rebuild and optimize on that computer. So you might have a dozen workstations in one central server. Make sure you go to that server to run the database backup and restore. And we'll do, rebuild and optimize the database. And that is found under utilities, and then rebuild and optimize this database. And it's going to confirm that you want to do this, and we will say yes. Now, all other users must be out of Shepherd Staff and every other workstation for this utility to run here. So go ahead and say yes, and then it will go ahead and check your database for any damage that it finds there, and then it will go ahead and compact your database so that it's in the smallest possible size, and that will just ensure that it runs as quickly as possible here. Now, if it finds any minor corruption in your database, it will go ahead and correct that. If it does encounter an error, it will tell you that it could not finish. And then at that case, go ahead and call us because we will need to get involved as support to go ahead and get your database back up and running there. But as you can see, it wasn't a particularly long process. And I would recommend running that once at the beginning of this process today. And that applies to every computer. So you don't need to run this on every computer, just one computer. That's why we had to go to the server there. And then only run it once for all of your year-end modules. So if you are doing a year-end process in every module, you only need to run this rebuild and utility once. Of course, you could run it multiple times should you wish, but second, third, etc. would be redundant in that case. So go ahead and say OK. All right, so now that we've finished with that, we'll delve into the contributions module here. And we will begin by making sure that all of our unposted batches for 2018 or 2019, depending on which year end you're doing, are completely posted and inside of our database. Because when when batches sit here in an unposted status, they are not recognized by any of your reports inside of Shepherd Staff. So your numbers could be off as far as your contributions go. And when we get to attendance, as far as your attendance numbers go. So we do have one batch in here. I entered it today, and we will go ahead and post that. Now, by default, reports print out when you are posting batches. Just to save paper for this demonstration, I'm going to turn that off today. And it will basically just warn you that you've turned it off. And we'll say yes to continue, but I would definitely recommend leaving that on for you because those reports are very handy if you have an actual batch, unlike the one I have here. Then once you've done, you'll go ahead and post. And it will give you a screen that says, would you like to create an attendance batch for this? And we will not worry about that. It will also offer you to create a deposit in finance. And we'll say, sure, you can go ahead and create a deposit for finance. And then it will not only post your offerings, but create that finance deposit. So we'll say, OK, it was posted successfully. Now that this screen is clear, we know that all of our batches have been posted. Go ahead and enter in any more batches that you need to for that year. Once you are confident that all of your information has been entered into a batch and posted, then you can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is your pledge information. Now, pledges do have a few rules here, and we're going to go over those in just 1 second. The first thing I should note is that you might want to go ahead and run the pledge recalculation utility. and that is under Utilities, and then Recalculate Pledges. And this window here might look scary. It's just giving you an expectation as to what this utility does for you. And this is for each one ending in 2019. It will, that's because I've already run the year-end utility before. This would say most likely 2018. It recalculates the pledge given to date, and it attaches any unpledged offerings falling within the pledge date range, providing the offerings have the same funding attributor. Now that's very important, because say you had you collected offerings, of course, for the first 3 months of the year, and then the 4th month of the year rolls around and the person decides to pledge, and they want to backdate some of their offerings already given onto that pledge. It's very simple. All you do is start the pledge, have the date range of the pledge, and we'll cover all this in more detail, but have the date range of the pledge encompass all the offering dates they want to include, and then run this utility, and we'll go ahead and put them all on their pledge there. And it does not move or reattach offerings that were given to the wrong pledge. That's very important. It also does not remove pre or post offering, pledge offerings there. That's also key. If you do have questions about these situations here, definitely call us. We'll go ahead and delve into those a little bit deeper. And then to change the year for which utility runs, change the module date in the lower right. And that's right here. So basically we've entered 2019, so it's gone ahead and assumed that's what we're doing it for. We basically just have to change this date here. So go ahead and continue. So we'll say yes, and it finished. It reassigned all of those for us. That's excellent. Now that we've run that, let's cover the 5 pledge rules that we'll be dealing with today, and go ahead and ask any questions about these, or call us if you have further questions that you want to ask off air. That's perfect. All right. So for pledge rules today, we'll go ahead and jump into the correct one here. And there we go. Pledge rules. Pledge rule 1, pledges can be entered at any time regardless of date. So what this means is that you can go ahead and enter a pledge today on the 8th that starts the 1st, or vice versa. You could enter one today on the 8th that doesn't start until December and run from December 2019 to December 2020. So it's completely up to you when you want to go ahead and run those pledges. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to get all your pledges in on January 1st for if they run January 1st, the end of the year, or anything like that. Pledge rule number 2, new pledges should be entered each year. What that means is you should go ahead and limit your date range on pledges to 1-year increments, and then go ahead and roll those over if possible. You should also try to keep your pledges to your fiscal year. So if your fiscal year runs January 1st through December 31st, then your pledges shouldn't technically go outside that range. They of course can. It's completely up to your church how you want to run those. It just becomes more difficult to keep track of all those when you're managing your pledges. So you definitely can do it if you want to be very on top of things. It's just harder to remember to do that inside the software. All right, pledge rule number 3, 2 pledges cannot be entered for the same contributor for the same fund within the same date range. Now, what does that mean? Okay, so what that means is we have the same date range. So let's say the first pledge is January 1, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. And the second pledge is shorter. It runs October 1st to the end of October of 2019. And so far, so good. We have 2 pledges. Now, the contributor is the same. Okay, so far, so good. We have overlapping date range, and the contributor is the same. But where we get into trouble is if we try to give it for the same fund. So if we try to have both of these for the general fund or the Vacation Bible School or the building fund, that's where we run into a problem. It's where all 3 of those things are true. So you can have the same contributor giving the same date range to 2 different funds. That's fine. Of course, different contributors to the same fund within the same date range. Or you could set up same contributor to the same fund. You could set up those for different date ranges. We don't recommend doing that, of course, because then it could go outside fiscal years. But say you wanted, the contributor wanted to pledge $100 to the general fund, per week for the first half of 2019. And if the second half they want to do $250 to that fund, that'd be an example of same contributor, same fund, different date range. So as long as all three of those are not the same, then you're good to go. And of course, ask a question or call us if you have more, if you want us to delve more deeply into that topic there. Pledge rule number 4 is offering records entered after the pledge is entered will be credited towards the active pledge. And what that means is that you set up this pledge today, and then offerings are taken next Sunday. They will be entered for that pledge because you started the pledge and the offerings came afterwards. No problem there. And it's active if the date range that it starts is in the past. So because, let's say the offering started on January 1st of 2019, we're here on the 8th, that pledge would be active because we've passed the start date there. And that's true, of course, if you're on the start date as well. Pledge rule number 5. Pledges entered after the offerings are entered must be recalculated to attach those offerings to the pledge. And we touched on this briefly, but I want to make sure I did it justice here. So what that means is, say you have offerings from last Sunday, the 6th, and we're just now getting around to entering in the pledges, but you want those offerings given on the 6th to apply to this pledge. You would go ahead and post your offering batches just like we did, putting those offerings in there. Then you would go ahead and create your pledge. And then once the pledge is created, you'd go ahead and recalculate that pledge, and it would look and say, oh, these offerings were entered before the pledge was created, but they fall within the pledge's date range for the same fund. Let's go ahead and add them to their pledge there for you. So that's where that recalculate utility really shines as a great time saver, especially if, at the beginning of the year, like most of us, you're a little bit behind the time on getting all your pledges in. Then that recalculate lets you go back and fix all of those mistakes and link those all up. And this one can definitely be confusing and complicated, so please reach out to us if you have lingering questions about that. We get quite a few of those, so don't feel bad about that at all. All right, so now we'll go ahead and jump back in to our discussion of pledges. Let's go ahead and look at what the pledge entry looks like. So there are several ways to get to pledges. My preferred way is the quick icon, which is a capital P with the church on it, and it says pledge records. Now, it's my preferred way because it's one click. There are a few other ways, but we won't go into those right now because there are 2 or 3 clicks to get there. And this shows you your pledge records grid, and it gives you a snapshot of the basic information about that pledge. The name, envelope, fund name, amount, frequency, and what they've given, gift in kind, etc. To go ahead and begin, go ahead and add in a new pledge. And I'm going to start with one for James and Ellen here, just to show you the overlapping dates, fund, and contributor error that you can get here. So go ahead and enter this in for James and Ellen. We'll choose the general fund, which is the same fund they already have this in, and then we'll choose the amount, let's say $1. And then we'll just leave it to the default date range, which is from today to the end of the year. If you click this once, it moves it to the next year. And if you click it a second time, it moves it to the beginning of this year, and then it just alternates between those after that. So again, it defaults to today's date, then it goes to next year, and then it goes back to the beginning of this year for the refresh there. And we'll leave it at this. Then if we hit OK, it will give us the warning saying that the pledge dates overlap with these dates here. And not only that, but the contributor is the same and the fund is the same as well. So this, and this all overlap. And so we can't go ahead and save this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and change that. And we'll change this to the mission fund. Saves, not a problem there. And that in a nutshell is how you would go ahead and enter in these pledges. You could go ahead and let's say we want to enter one pledge record for Dave Abbott and give to the building fund. And he'll say $50 a week, but he doesn't want this to start until October. Not a problem there. You can go ahead and have this start October. It'll show you what his total pledge is, the weekly amount, all that good stuff. So we're entering this in the future, but it's good to do that, all these pledges, as soon as you get them in, as soon as you know about them, you want to go ahead and get those into the system there. So go ahead and say, okay. So you have that pledge in there as well. And then after that, I believe that's everything I want to talk about on pledges there, just because I went into more depth in that in the pledge rule section there. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to us and we'll get those resolved for you. All right, after that, after we have posted our batches, entered our pledges, and then run that handy dandy recalculate utility right here, then we'll go ahead and print off our year-end reports that will let us know where we ended up for that specific year. And there are 4 reports we'll be running today. Well, 3 reports and then your contribution statements. So there are several ways to get to contribution statements. The easiest one, my favorite, is 3 pieces of paper with a $sign on it. And it says contribution statements. If you click on it, it's a one-click approach to accessing the contribution statements and mailing labels. If you are more comfortable, though, you could, of course, open up reports, the quick icon, come to statements and mailing labels, and select that, and it will take you to the exact same place. Or you can come up here to reports, and then just rinse repeat from that. So there are many different ways to get places inside of the software. It's really just which one makes sense for you. And because this is a commonly used feature, we've added a quick icon to the top for it there. So that's where we'll begin today with our contribution statements. And then you can go ahead and choose all contributors. You could create a subgroup of contributors. Say you only wanted to give this people who gave $150 or more, $500 or more, whatever your amount is, or it could just be everyone who contributed. It could also be one envelope number. Maybe if you're going back to fix a mistake, someone got the wrong information, you go back and update that and then just print their label. You choose this option. And then you could, of course, search by name and number there, or just type in the number if you know it. For today's demonstration, though, we will stick with all contributors, and we will exclude those who prefer email. That's something I should touch on really quickly here. Let's go back to contributor records and double click on them to open up their record. Another way to do that is to select and then edit. And this is where you give their preference as far as receiving statements. They are set to paper. Should they prefer email, it will pull the email over from the membership module. And of course, you can edit that if you would like to there. And there are some people who prefer to receive 3, the first, second, and third quarter statements if you provide those by email. And then some people prefer the last quarter to be a paper statement. And some churches prefer that as well. They'll give 4 statements a year, 3 of which will be electronic, 1 of which will be paper to everyone, regardless of this. So because of that, this allows you to exclude those who prefer email from the first 3 quarters, and if the final quarter you uncheck that and everyone gets a paper copy. So that's important to note as well. Then of course you can determine which offerings you would like to look at. And we are doing statements today, though some people do give gifts in kind, like couches, cars, etc. And then you can go ahead and give gift in kind acknowledgments as well under statements or labels. We'll change that back to statements today. And then after this, you decide if you want any barcodes, Canadian format, etc. In the formatting. Then under options, you can sort this by envelope, name, or you can sort it by zip/postal code, depending on what makes the most sense in your application there. After that, you can go ahead and add in the IRS message or not, federal ID number, any special itemizations, descriptions, groupings, etc. Now, various churches or denominations have different preferences of what they want to do for the word pledge. And these are all listed right here. You can go ahead and even use a user-defined term, which means anything you want can really be added in there. I'm also leave this as pledge today, though. Just know that those exist. And then ahead and behind, some churches and some members want to know if they're ahead or behind, especially when the year end is coming along. They might want to, of course, it's too late now, but say you're doing this early December, they might want to know what they have to make up for that month there, so that they can make one big year-end contribution to clear that all out. We'll say don't show, though. And then you can either print this, you could choose to email this if we were doing email statements, or you can preview this today. It'll go ahead and show us an overview of what the statement looks like. It is itemized here today. And we are doing this for 3 people, because we only have 3 people in our database. But these arrows up here are how you navigate between the different pages. And then you can choose to export this. You can export this to PDF, to Excel, to Word. to a text document, CSV, even XML if you wanted that, or you could go ahead and print this off as well, should that be your desired method of distributing these here, which it most likely is for the end of the year, but not necessarily. And then once you're done printing or exporting, you go ahead and close this. And that's all there is to it for the contribution statements. Please go ahead and reach out to us if you have any questions. We'll go ahead and get you an appropriate solution. After you have sent off your contribution statements, then we have 3 reports to run, beginning with contributions by week. So we'll come up here to the reports quick icon, and we'll do the contributions by week report. After we select that, we'll bring up the report, and as you can see, it is fairly straightforward. It gives us the date range, which for you would probably be 2018, but it could be 2019 just because my clock is turned over to 2019. Then we'll choose funds, and we actually have to choose 5 of these. I believe this is the one you have to choose 5. Yes, 5 funds have to be selected at a time. So we'll choose the general fund, then we'll choose mission, and then we'll go to youth, and then building here. And we'll choose a 5th one too. We'll do Vacation Bible School. Then we'll hit OK with those 5 there, and we will preview this report. And it's very, very high level. It gives you those 5 funds. It gives you the week range in question, and then it will go ahead and give you the period total, pledged, unpledged, pledged for period, etc. So let you know where you ended up in each of those funds over the date range. And then after we've done that report and we've either exported it, printed it, or printed directly from here, then we move on to the fund summary report. And that is also reports and then fund summary. Select that. And we can either do a fund summary, a 5-year comparison, or a 5-year comparison with a graph. Just know these 2 exist. If you have more questions, go ahead and reach out to us, but we will stick with the fund summary for today. And of course, there's the date range and how you want to sort them. I'm going to sort them by number, though of course you could sort them by name. It's completely up to you. And then let's include detail, but not the pie. Well, let's include the pie charts as well. Then you could print this directly from here, or you can preview this, and it will show it's 2 pages because we added in those pie charts. And the first page shows you the fund, and it shows you the offerings for that fund, and then the count of those offerings. So we had $600 unpledged for 2 offerings, and it gives you the average of those offerings as well. And so it's basically just this number divided by this number is going to give us this number right here. And then it shows you the date range those offerings were given as well on there. And then same thing for music ministry. Report totals summarizes this. And then the pie charts are if your church prefers to have just this, you can go ahead and print just a 2nd page of this off and see that breakdown there. But if they also want the date, the offerings are given, then you would give them the 1st page and or the 2nd page there. So this is a great one to go ahead and print or export here. And then after we've done the fund summary, we have one final report, and that is contributions by contributor, fund, household. And that one is right up here under reports, contributions by contributor / fund / household. And we are going to go ahead and enter this in with all contributors, though of course you could enter this with just a subgroup of contributors, say $150, $500, something like that. And if you have more questions about subgroups, go ahead and call us. We'll delve deeply into those powerful reporting tools there. And then we're going to go ahead and include the pledge summary today, and we're going to confirm the date range is correct here. It's always the beginning of the year to today. For that, you can definitely stretch that out if you should the need arise. And I believe this one can be run on all funds. We'll preview that. It definitely can. That's because it goes vertically, not horizontally there. So for this one, we have our loose offerings given to the general fund. And we also have that Sally Baxter gave and that James and Ellen gave as well, the general fund. So it's ordered by number. And then you see the funds all filtered down into that, what they've pledged to this date, what they've given to this date, and then the last time they've given. So it gives you a ton of good information you can see there. And it's a very valuable report that churches can look at to give them another view of another view of their information to kind of analyze it from another angle there. Now we finished the contributions by envelope report, and we have either printed that or exported that report. Go ahead and close this. And the next thing we will do inside of Shepherd Staff is we'll go ahead and renumber our envelopes. Now, this process may seem daunting if you've never done it before, and believe me, it definitely can be the first time, but go ahead and reach out to us again. We'll walk you through that, and hopefully it'll make a lot more sense after my explanation and after you reach out to us should the need arise. So the first thing I do after opening the contributor record screen, which is up here, you can go up to contributor records, open that grid there. It's a one-click approach, or contributor and then records right there as well. Oh, that reminds me. I'm going to go back to pledges really quick. If you come up here to contributor and then details, you can zero in on one contributor. And let's do envelope number 100, Dave Abbott here. This is a very powerful tool because contributor details will allow you to see a plethora of information about one specific individual. And then you can just go right down the line by envelope number there to all your individuals as well. You can see their fast facts about that person from the membership module. You can print labels and statements directly from here. See their printing preference, their address, everything can be seen from here. It will show you their past pledges and their future pledges. I guess, no, these are current. This one here is current because it is in white, and the rest of these in blue are past pledges there. And then I will go, or not yet active, excuse me, not yet active. So it's both past and this future one here as well. So you can see all of those easily there. And then you can go to offerings, see all of their offerings here as well. Yearly summary, total, gifts in kind, and then any recurring offering they might have. So this is a very, very, very powerful tool. You can export these grids directly to Excel right down here. You can sort these grids, etc. So this is a great way to go through and delve into individuals because it pulls all the useful information onto one view, onto a tabulated view on a person by person, or excuse me, envelope number by envelope number records. This is very, very helpful here. I definitely want to touch on that. Okay, great. Now that we've touched on that, we'll shift gears back into renumbering. And we'll open up the contributor records grid by either clicking here on the quick icon or under contributor and then records. And the first thing I always do is I go ahead and mark off everyone who's going to be skipped in this renumbering. And in order to do that, we will unlock the grid. And then once it's unlocked, we'll go down and say everyone we want to be skipped in this renumbering. Let's say we want Teresa to be skipped and then Jason to be skipped. Now what this does is it gives them a new envelope number, and it gives them an envelope number that's here in the 10,000s as opposed to just renumbering them in the same order. So it puts the number 117 back into circulation for someone else to get, and it bumps Jason Freeman up here into the really high 10,000s. That's what checking skip renumber does in your year. So someone else is going to get this number next year because we checked that for both Teresa and Jason there as well. And then you go down and mark everyone's skip renumber that you want to. Then after you've done that, you have two ways you can go ahead and actually renumber the next year envelopes. You can either manually enter in what the envelope numbers should be for this year. Let's say we just want to delete this out of here. We'll give them 150 is what he wants next year. And then she wants 106. And that's going to let you know that we can't because someone else has 150 there. So let's say they want 175 for him. You can go ahead and manually put that in here. And as you can imagine, it's kind of a time-consuming process, even though we only have a few of them in here. And as you have bigger databases, which are more realistic in an actual church setting, that's going to be much more time-consuming. The second way to do this is you skip renumbering, then you lock the grid again, you close the grid, and you go ahead and come up here to utilities, and then renumber next year's envelopes. And what this does is it allows you to go ahead and assign next year's envelope numbers alphabetically. So that means Dave Abbott, because his last name comes first alphabetically, he would get whatever number you put in here. And I believe this can take up to 5 fields, 5 characters, but you want to be careful not to use something in the 10,000s, because those would be confused with your envelopes that you're skipped. Usually people who are inactive, but you want to keep their records on there, get those large numbers. So I say let's start with 100, or you could do 1,000, or you could do 10, or you could do 1, whatever you really wanted to do in there. Let's do 100. So this is going to give Dave Abbott 100 and everyone else alphabetically by last name the next number, so 101, 102, etc. And it's important to note that this does not change the current numbers. To activate next year's envelope numbers, run the Start Using Next Year's Envelope Numbers utility, and we'll touch on that in just 1 second. So go ahead and let's renumber them. To start with 200 though, because I already did it with 100. So we're going to say assign 100 to the first person and then the next number after that. Go ahead and hit OK. And we will say yes. After we are really sure that we want to do this, we'll say yes. And it renumbered their envelopes. Okay, let's go ahead and check those today. And as you can see, the next year envelope is what they will have. And you may have noticed that it bumped Jason down here and Teresa both down here. See what they had last time and what they had this time, because we marked them as skip renumbering there. That's what they're going to look like. All right, so we go back up here, and then we see, okay, this is what they currently have, this is what they will have. When we are ready to stop using the current numbers and begin using the next year numbers, we'll close this grid, come up here to Utilities, and we'll run the Start Next Year's Envelope Number utility. And this one does have a warning that says it is highly recommended that you make a backup of your contributions data before activating the next year's envelope numbers. So we'll go ahead and click No, because that will close this window, and I'll go ahead and make that backup really quick. This is the first of 2 backups we'll make today. So we'll go ahead and close that, come back to the main screen of Shepherd Staff, make sure that all your modules are closed. And let's say we had contributions open, but we just minimize that. It would show up down here at the bottom. Let's go ahead and open that up, close that. Come here to Utilities, and then Database, Backup, and Restore. And anyone can make a backup. Only the system administrator can go ahead and restore that backup. So it doesn't matter if you make your backup, you're not going to break any data. We will choose the last location used, as that basically the computer is remembering where you made it last time, and it'll just go ahead and add to that file there. Though, of course, if you choose a location I choose after clicking Start Backup, it will launch your File Explorer, and you can save this anywhere you want to, on a USB drive, on a network drive, etc. On your hard drive, just like that. But if we choose the last location used and then Start Backup, we'll go ahead and make that backup, and we're in good shape. Now, if we mess up this renumbering, we always roll it back and undo that here. So now we'll come back to Contributions, Utilities, Start Using Next Year's Envelope Numbers. And now we can confidently say yes, because we've made our backup, and this will activate our next year envelope numbers and make them the current envelope numbers. And just like that, they're activated. This is asking about web tools being synced, because we've changed the envelope numbers. If you use web tools, you will say yes. If you don't know what web tools are or just don't want to use them, say no. But please contact us if you want to know more about web tools. They are a very convenient way to enter contributions and attendance batches remotely. So we'll say yes, and then it will pop up this little screen here. We'll say sync, and when we're done, this little triangle is going to go away. Perfect, because now we have synced with our web tools. All right, so now that we've done that, our envelope numbers are renumbered and are currently activated, so we are using them. We are in good shape to go ahead and begin the cleanup utility portion of this discussion today. And one thing that I should note is that this cleanup utility is not recommended by us to be run every single year, just on a case-by-case basis should this be run. And what that means is if you have pledges that are older than 10 years, then run this utility. If you don't have pledges that are older than 10 years, then this utility is completely superfluous. So let's go ahead and begin. We will start by making another backup by closing all those modules, confirming they're all closed, coming down to utilities, and then make another backup of our database. And we'll choose the last location used and start backup. That way, if we make any problem with the cleanup utility, we can back up after we've renumbered the offering envelopes there. So we don't have to redo that. Come back into contributions, and we'll come up here to utilities, and we are going to use the clean up utility. Now there's that warning to make your backup, which we will go ahead and confidently say yes because we've made one. And there's only one option, and this is to delete all pledges and offerings older than 1/1/2009. Again, if you don't have any older than that, or if you don't want to run this utility, feel free not to run it. It is completely optional. But if you want to speed up your database by removing these older pledges and offerings, then go ahead and check this box and hit OK. And it will warn you, hey, you're about to delete all the pledges and offerings before that date. Do you wish to continue? Yes, we do. And we don't have any in our database, so it will tell you that. But if you did have some, it would process for a little bit, and then it would say that it successfully purged those records. And then no unpledged offerings. Okay, perfect. So it is finished. We'll go ahead and say OK, and then close. And that, in a nutshell, is the contributions module year-end process for Shepherd staff. Go ahead and ask any questions down there if you would like. My manager will go ahead and answer those. Or you can go ahead and reach out to us by phone or email with any lingering questions about that module that you may encounter once you're going through it there. Now that that is done, we'll go ahead and begin the attendance portion of this webinar today. And to do that, we'll go ahead and close out of contributions. And we will go ahead and open up attendance. Now, attendance goes much more quickly than contributions does, because you don't have to worry about pledges or renumbering of envelopes in attendance. And again, if you're not using attendance inside of Shepherd Staff, completely ignore this. Your end utility is not necessary to do it. Go ahead and open up attendance. And this is the new 2019 attendance module. As you can see, it looks quite a bit different than even the contributions module does there. And to begin, we want to make sure that all of our batches are posted, just like they were in contributions. So we have this batch here with 15 attendees. We want to make sure that this is posted. So go ahead and say yes, post that batch. It's going to go ahead and just confirm what we're doing. We will say absolutely yes. Once that's done, the information is removed from the batch screen and is put into our events window, events by date. So it now populated that event up here, showing us exactly what happened. 15 people, 1 visitor, 14 non-visitors. In a matter of seconds, it puts into our database. And it's really that simple to post your batches. If you have any questions, something goes wrong with that, go ahead and reach out to us and we'll get you an appropriate solution. Now that we're done with that, we'll come over to the Reports tab and run 2 important reports today. The first one is we want to do attendance by event right up here. And we have to choose who we want to do this report for. I would personally say unless you're doing a custom subgroup, stick with everyone. If you know you don't want to do everyone, then you might do all members as current members. Will exclude those people who've transferred out during the year, or anyone marked inactive will be excluded by this. So I would stick with everyone, then maybe a subgroup, and then maybe all members after that. So we'll just start with everyone today, and then we want to go ahead and put in the attendance range. So let's say 2018 is when we want the attendance range for. It's pretty simple to put that in. And now we could either do search by type, as in a worship service, a communion service, Sunday school, etc., or we could search by specific events. Let's say we want to see just the contemporary worship event in this report, or we want to see all 3 of those. You can just go ahead and pick and choose this way or by this as well. So let's go ahead and put this in like that. And then let's sort this by person. So just know that you have a lot of options for sorting in there, depending on the specificity of your report. And then we choose to include certain options. Let's go ahead and include everything on this. But again, this is cafeteria style. You can pick and choose what you want in there. And then we'll go ahead and click print. which actually will take us to a preview first after it finishes processing. And of course, you can stop the preview by clicking that stop button there. This will go ahead and give us a lengthy report, 32 pages for our small database. It would be much larger for yours, with a summary of people and households at the end and reporting totals. On the first page, though, it gives us the name, a ton of information about the person, including address, phone number, email, and then it goes ahead and gives us the totals. So total worship, total communion, right here. Then it breaks it down by the worship type, so contemporary worship as opposed to Sunday school or traditional. And then it goes ahead and breaks that out as well to how many times they worship at contemporary and how many times they communion at contemporary, etc. And the last time they attended that service. So Jacob Abbott went to Sunday school 32 times. Last time attended was in September. And went ahead and attended contemporary 33 times, took communion 33 times, and last time was last Sunday. So this is a great report to see this by person, but it can be quite lengthy. So another way to go ahead and sort that would be by event. And then we'll go ahead and preview this one here. We'll show you this one. It's much more condensed. It will go ahead and summarize everything that happened during this date range. So contemporary worship occurred 36 times, had 143 distinct people in 143 distinct households, and then it will go ahead and show you how many times people worshiped, how many times they communed, Sunday school, etc. All of that good stuff is tracked and then totaled up there. So this is much more of a high-level report you can give to your congregation, but if they want it by person, they can delve deeply into person, by sex, marital status, age group, etc., whatever your church needs for that report. And then go ahead and print that off by either clicking print, or you can export that here to your file choice. All right, so now that we've done that report, we will next look at the attendance history report, which is the old name for it. The new name is attendance behavior report here. And we'll go ahead and run this again for everyone, but you really need to give a little bit of thought to who exactly you want to run this. You might try a couple of these to see which one works best for you. All members, everyone, current members, subgroup. See which one gives you the best report by selecting it, previewing, going back and changing, previewing another one. We'll choose everyone today. And then choose your behavior. You can choose those who did not attend during the date range, who missed, let's say they missed more than 3 times or more than 2 times, who attended every single time if you want to do like a perfect attendance shout out, or who missed only a certain number of times. So we will say did not attend at all during 2018, and I'm actually going to move this down to current members. The reason I do this for did not attend is if you have someone who's marked as current or active inside the database but did not attend once during 2018, you might consider moving them to inactive status there. Or if you're doing missed only a certain number of times or attended at least a certain number of times, that's when you start using everyone or a subgroup or something like that as well. So the current members did not attend between this range, any of these, and let's group this out by person to see the people, and let's just include everything on there. Though of course, pick and choose as you wish by selecting everything as such. Then we'll go ahead and print this, and this will give us a preview of our report today, and it will show us when they did not attend. And some people are showing up the last attendance because Ellen did not attend in 2018, but we did enter attendance for her in 2019. So these 3 here probably wouldn't be marked as inactive, but you might want to take a look just from, completely optional, take a look at like Deidre or John or Katerina to see if they should be marked as inactive. Maybe something happened to them, you just haven't taken into account this year. For that group. These are kind of people you could look at that way. You can also look at everyone who attended at least twice, let's say, during the year. And let's preview that. And this is going to be a much more full report, I hope, to test database, so maybe not. It is 28 pages, so it is much more complete. It gives you that summary there. And again, it gives you a nice breakdown of all their information. The service they attended occurred this many times. They only missed 3 times in here, as opposed to someone like Allison, who missed 4 times in there. It gives you a nice reporting breakdown of the attendance behavior. Now that we've done attendance behavior report and attendance by event report and posted our batches, that's really all there is for the year end inside attendance. As I said, it's much more straightforward than before. The only thing to do is to, didn't mean to close that, open that right back up, is to go ahead and potentially run the cleanup utilities here. And these can only be run by the system administrator, and they are under tool/settings and clean up your attendance data. And again, this is a case-by-case basis. It's not recommended to do every year, just completely optional. Hit start, and then highly recommend to perform a backup before running this utility, as it does allow you to remove individual attendance detail that is over 10 years old. So anyone who attended and was recorded in attendance before this date in 2009 will be deleted. But first we have to make that backup. So we'll close that, close this, pop back over here, and we'll make a backup. This way, if anything goes wrong, we can still have all of our batches done and all of our reports run before that. And we'll just make another backup here really quickly. As you can see, it doesn't take much time, and you can just know that that anything you do can be undone. Come back into attendance and tools settings, clean up your attendance data, and then we will say, yes, confidently we've made that backup. It's going to permanently delete that old attendance and make your database smaller, run more efficiently, etc. And then we'll hit continue. And of course, we didn't find any here, but if you had some, it would say it was successful, and then you can close that. That, in a nutshell, is the attendance portion of the year-end utility. It's very straightforward, as you can see, but please go ahead and give us a call if I didn't make sense when I was talking about anything, or if you just want us to go deeper into a specific topic, then definitely go ahead and reach out to us. I'll go ahead and close this, and we will begin the review section of our webinar today. And this review section, we will begin with performing the year-end utility in a specific order. You want to make sure that you always start with contributions, attendance, and then membership. And that assumes that you are using all three of those modules. So let's say you're only using membership, then just run the year-end utility in membership. Or if you're only using contributions, attendance, just run them in that order there, skipping any that you don't use. Scheduler and finance are kind of their own special cases. So those should be run whenever you are ready to run them. So you could do contributions, then finance, then attendance, then membership, or finance first, and then contributions, attendance, and membership scheduler. Whatever order you want to on these last two, as long as the first three are in the same order. Always remember these basic steps. Update and enter all data first. That was posting those batches and the pledges and all that good stuff in there, renumberings, all that first. And yep, envelope numbers and posting batches. Then you run any needed reports that you are going to run inside the software, including but not limited to the ones we've been over today in this video. And then most specifically, you probably want to run the contribution statements and attendance comparison at the bare minimum, but it's really up to your church what you want to go ahead and run there. And then we'll also review making a backup. Making a new backup before completing each module's year-end task will give you a fallback point should something go wrong or be discovered to be incorrect after running the year-end. And it's really just peace of mind, knowing that if anything goes wrong, you can always roll that back and get to a good place again. And then complete year-end task for the module, then check your data afterwards to verify changes. So you finish with your contributions, and then you check to make sure, do I need to wipe this all away and go back to my backup, or can I proceed to the next task? And then make sure to make another backup when year-end tasks are complete. All right, now that we've concluded that review, we'll go ahead and jump into our quiz for today. And the first quiz question is true or false? The rebuild/optimized database utility should be run on every single computer that has Shepherd Staff. True or false? So I will go ahead and open this up for questions here, and then we'll go ahead and give you a few seconds to respond. Once we get all of our answers in, we'll go ahead and answer, should the rebuild and optimized utility be run on every single computer that has Shepherd Staff? All right, go ahead and close that poll. And we'll show the answer here. It is false. The rebuild/optimize database utility will run its checks on the database for all users and all computers that are connected to the database. If one person runs this utility, the rest of the staff will not need to run this utility because it's database specific, not workstation specific. So that one is false. Move on to our next question. Oh, there's a note. Running this utility does not delete any data, and that is very key. It is not going to remove anything but your corruption from the database there. So if all your data is good, it's all going to remain good after you run this utility here. It will always make your database better if it can, basically by removing corruption and going ahead and optimizing it into the smallest, most compact format it can. So you're not going to lose anything by running this. All right, next question is multiple choice. And the question is, which utility should you run to make the next year's envelope numbers active? We have A, renumber next year's envelopes, B, start using next year's envelope numbers, or C, rebuild/optimize database. I'll go ahead and open that poll up here so you can get your response in. But do you think it is A, B, or C for which utility should you run to make the next year's envelope numbers active? Give you a little more time to answer. All right, go ahead and close that poll. And the answer is B. Remember, the renumber the next year envelope utility helps you assign envelope numbers for the next year. You will still need to run the start using next year's envelope number utility to move the envelope numbers from the envelope next year column to the envelope column. This will allow you to use the new envelope numbers when entering offerings in 2017, 2018, or 2019 there. And then, of course, the note is please double check your envelope number prior to entering next year's envelope offerings. So you go ahead and go through all this, do a double check before you put in any offerings, just make sure it's correct. You don't need to restore a backup there. And the only two resolutions that are to restore a backup or manually correct the offerings if you skip this step. All right, the next question is true or false? All contributions and attendance batches, should be posted prior to running final year-end reports. True or false? Go ahead and open up that poll here for you and see what you say. Is it true or false that all contribution and attendance batches should be posted prior to running the final year-end reports? All right, and that was a quick one. We'll go ahead and get the response up there. And this one is, of course, true. Good job, everybody. And please post all of your contributions and attendance batches prior to generating year-end reports. Not doing so will leave your year-end total short and inaccurate as far as your reports go. The next question is also true or false, and it is pledges can be entered at any time regardless of today's date or the pledge date. So go ahead and enter a poll for that one to see what your answers are. And we'll give you a few seconds to answer the question of pledges can be entered at any time regardless of today's date or the pledge date. All right, go ahead and show the answer. Good job, everybody. This one is true. Shepherd staff allows users to enter next year's pledges now, and it will allow a pledge to be added once a pledge drive has been started. Please remember to recalculate pledges if offerings were present prior to the creation of the pledge. And go ahead and call us if you have any questions about that utility there. True or false? You are required to run the cleanup utility each year in every module. I'll go ahead and open the poll to this one. And I'm hoping everyone gets this one right. I tried to stress it when we were talking about this today. If it was true or false that you are required to run the cleanup utility each year in every module. True or false? All right. And this one, I'm proud of you all. You got it right. Is false. Running the cleanup utility is optional. This utility permanently deletes records from your database. Means you can no longer reference or report on that information. And this is why it's not recommended. It's on a case-by-case basis because it does require extreme caution when running the cleanup utility because of that. All right, so that completes our quiz, and we'll go ahead and move on to the Q&A section of this webinar. And we'll go ahead and take any questions you have here in the channel, and I'll go ahead and answer those if there are any. Go ahead and see if you have a chance to type those in there. All right, I'm not seeing any lingering ones here, and I'll go ahead and leave this open for a few more minutes here, but I will move to the thank you slide. And just thank you for attending today's webinar, and I hope you enjoyed this session. If you do have further questions, please contact us at 346-6120, or of course you can reach our general support line at support@cts.cph.org. And I hope you enjoyed today's session. I'll leave this open a little bit longer, and you have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye.